we've survived the werewolf attacks, and now we are on an abandoned spaceship, and the doctor keeps jumping into a different time on us. We have reached leg 3 of the amazing Readathon, which means that we have a new game board of prompts and new books that we need to be reading. So I am going to start off by picking out preliminary reads that I will try to do for these prompts if I manage to get to them. Last leg, I was not very productive and I only managed to finish 2 books. The third book that I was reading, I have almost finished. I only have about 120 pages left of The Wife Comes First by Lu Qian. And I will try to fit it into one of the leg 3 prompts so that I can get the bonus points for it when I finish. But if it doesn't fit, I will read the main prompt book for this leg first, and then I will finish reading The Wife Comes First and submit it for the previous leg and take the point loss. But before I can make a verdict on that, I have to first look at the available prompts and decide what I am going to be filling them with. Alright, so as you guys know, I've been doing my best to match my books that I read for the Amazing Readathon also with books that I read for the Tarot Readathon. And in the last 2 vlogs, that has meant that I need to pull tarot cards in order to help me determine my reads. This time, however, I was looking at the prompts and the books that I have pulled for the Tarot Readathon and haven't read yet. And surprisingly, I have books that cross over with prompts for both already. So I don't need to do any polls and can just tell you the books that I have chosen. So to begin with the prompt that is the first thing that I need to read for this leg of the Amazing Readathon, which is there is a preposition in the book title. For this, I am going to be reading Fable for the End of the World by Reid, and in the Tarot Readathon, I am reading this for the 7 of Wands prompt. And then I was able to match my current read, The Wife Comes First, with one of the current legs reading prompts, which is a book with romance in it. This is kind of like a political fantasy, but with a lot of romance between the main couple as well. I definitely say it's more of a romance, and then the like political aspects of it are kind of just like scattered in the background more so than the romance is scattered in the background of the politics. And then in the Tarot Readathon, I am reading this for the 5 of Swords prompt, which is a book where a character must confront their past. And in this book, the protagonist time travels back to his past. And so he is... It's like a kind of like a shaky area of if this really counts for the prompt of his past is the future, so he uses his memories to help him in the current time. And then he's also like dealing with the trauma and the consequences psychologically of his first life. The next book that I am planning to read for the Tarot Readathon, I have it for the 9 of Wands, a book with survival elements, and the prompt within the Amazing Readathon that I have it in for right now is a book in a different genre from the last thing that you've read. This book is a different genre from all the other books in this pile, so it'll definitely fit no matter when I pull it. And the book itself is Carl's Doomsday Scenario by Matt Dinniman. I am really looking forward to getting to this book, and I'm hoping that it'll be sometime this month, but we will see. The next book is for the Nine of Cups, a 5-star prediction, and the reason that I think it's going to be a 5-star prediction is because I absolutely love the trope, which is the amazing Readathon prompt that it's fulfilling, which is a retelling. And that book is Of Jade and Dragons by Amber Chen. This is a Mulan retelling where a girl disguises herself as her brother to get into the, like, military academy, I think, or it might just be like an academy. And no, I think it is just like an architectural academy and she wants a higher education, but she does like end up in deeper conspiracy that lends it to like more of a Mulan retelling than just her disguising herself as her brother. The next book fulfills the 7 of Swords prompt, a morally gray main character or an anti-hero main character, and the amazing Readathon prompt of a light source on the cover, and that is The Assassin's Guide to Babysitting by Natalie Parker. This has stars on the cover, and then the sun isn't like in the picture, but the sunset is, and the sky is arguably a light source, even if it's technically the sun that's the light source. Anyway, there are stars, so it counts. The next amazing Readathon prompt is a book with a fancy cover, and the book I'm selecting also fulfills the tarot prompt of 6 of Cups, a childhood favorite or a book that makes you feel nostalgic. And this book feels nostalgic to me, and that is Artemis Fowl by Ian Coifer. This is a very pretty cover. It's like a metal journal with runes etched into it. I think it's a very fancy cover, personally. So, yes. This next book is both a thought-provoking book, fulfilling the Ace of Swords, and is a book out of my comfort zone for the amazing Readathon, and that is What We Tried to Bury Grows Here by Julian Zabel-Biaskowa, which is a... I don't know if it's historical fiction or historical nonfiction, but it is about the Spanish Civil War. And I don't really know what to expect about this. I got it because one of my professors wrote it, and it's been sitting on my shelf because I'm terrified of it. So, definitely out of my comfort zone, and I will maybe be picking it up if that is what the die will when I do my rolling for sightseeing. But it scares me. And then the last book on the TBR for this video is Heavenly Tyrant by Ziran Zhao. This fulfills the tarot prompt of Queen of Swords, a book featuring a strong female character, a matriarchy, or women in power. And the amazing Readathon prompt that it fulfills is a book that has won an award. Last year, I was looking it up, I can't remember, actually it's in the tab right in front of me. Last year, it won the 2025 Aurora Award for Best Young Adult Novel. So that is my TBR for this leg of the amazing Readathon, and let's start reading. It is now the 9th of June, and I have gotten far enough into Fable for the End of the World that I am confident that I will be able to finish it during my work shift today. And I also think that I will finish it with enough time to also finish The Wife Comes First, Volume 1. So before I leave for work, I am going to roll a die to see what the next amazing readathon prompt I'm reading for will be. I don't know if I'll be able to start it while I'm at work or if I will start it tonight or tomorrow, but it is time to find out what the next book will be. All right, so here is the leg game board, and we are starting on the tile, a book with a romance. So let's roll to see where we land next. 4. Okay, so that puts us on the starting tile, which I've already filled with Fable for the End of the World. So following that is a 3. So +3, a book in a different genre than your last read. All right, so the next prompt that I'm going to be fulfilling is a book in a different genre from my last read. And the book that I will be finishing when I technically start this prompt will be The Wife Comes First by Qian. And that is a historical fantasy, is how I would describe it, I guess. And so the book that I've selected for this prompt would have worked for any of the books that I would read before it. But this is a lit RPG, the most famous of the genre, I believe. And that is Carl's Doomsday Scenario by Matt Dinniman. All right, it is now the 10th, and yesterday I did, in fact, finish 2 books and started a third, the ones that I was telling you guys about. But along with that, this morning, the leg 3 of Amazing Readathon officially ended, which means that my reading for that is over. But before I move on to my leg 4 vlog and reading for that, I need to tell you about the books that I read yesterday. So the first book that I finished yesterday was the book that I was reading for the main prompt of leg 3, which was a book with the preposition in the title. And that book was Fable for the End of the World by Reid. This is a dystopian about... They don't do a whole lot of world building beyond what is needed to understand the story. So my understanding of the world, there was some kind of nuclear fallout and the United States splintered into different smaller countries. And our main character, Inessa, lives in the country of New Amsterdam. And this country is very capitalist. If you exceed a certain amount of debt, then you or someone who is related to you can be put up to be hunted on live stream by a robotically enhanced individual and killed, and that will relieve your debt. It has some very interesting takes on capitalism and how our country could further devolve into just a nightmare based off of the economy, and how that would affect people and their mentalities surrounding things like helping each other and gaining like debt from being nice. And like, if you're nice to someone, they will feel indebted to you, so no one wants someone to be nice to them. I think it was very interesting, and I think it also had a lot to say about internet culture and live streaming and how that affects people's self-image of themselves, and the like consequences that can come from certain things being live streamed, and once something is recorded, it can never go away. It's forever within the public domain, and no one will ever truly forget what they have seen. So I think that the dystopian commentary was really good, and I loved the romance between the main character and the love interest, who was the angel hunting her on her gauntlet, is what they call the hunt between someone put up to clear debt and the angel hunting them. I think that it was really well executed, and I loved like the folklore that came about within this community and was like an interesting, important part of this story, and how you can kind of see how some of it was like adapted from folklore that we have, like the mutated individuals who mutated because they ate the flesh of contaminated animals. They became this dystopian world's version of the Wendigo. I thought that was really cool that you could kind of like see the evolution of folklore. Yeah. And then this last comment is a little bit of a spoiler, so I will put a timestamp for you to skip to if you don't want to hear this. I was absolutely devastated by this ending. I know that it's like open to interpretation, and it's like a hopeful, maybe Melanoy will remember Inessa if she sees her, but I was devastated. I was not expecting her to get caught and to be mind wiped. The lesbians have a tragic end. But it was very good, and I do think that there would be room for there to be a sequel to this of some kind. I don't entirely know what that would be, but if Ava Reid ever did write a second book to this, I would be swooping in to pick it up. And then the next book that I finished reading was The Wife Comes First by Lu Ye Qian He. This is a Danmei. It's a kind of like political historical fantasy. I was surprised that this is the first Danmei that I've read from a different author than MXTX. I can't remember her full author name. I just remember the abbreviation right now, MXTX. And so I'm very used to how MXTX writes Danmei, and her books are like a bit more high fantasy than this one is, where there's no like magic in this or anything. It's just like political fantasy, which is fun. It's just wasn't quite what I was expecting. And then also there were scenes in this that I did not realize Danmei was capable of having because of China censorship. Like there was nothing on the level of like AO3 smut, but there was some smut in this, and I was shocked. It was very good. There was more romance in it than I was expecting. It was maybe like 60% romance, 40% politics, and I expected it to like be reversed. I don't know if it was in last vlog when I started reading this or in this vlog, but I did at one point mention like I was genuinely surprised at kind of like how fast-paced the romance in this is. I'm used to more of like a slow burn in Danmei, of like the protagonist or the love interest is like super oblivious or in denial about their feelings. And so just to have a protagonist who was immediately like, no, I'm in love with this man, I'm gonna make this man fall in love with me. It was very interesting and a good change of pace. I also enjoyed that within this world, queer relationships are normalized, or at least like normalized within that setting of how just like a relationship in general is treated. Like, it's not like taboo for two men to be in a relationship. It's pretty common, it's legal, but there are like rules that come with this kind of marriage, and they like reflect or mirror the way that a straight marriage in this world functions. And I think it's interesting the like kind of like notes on this of like there would be times where like the love interest who is married to the protagonist would be like, yes, I do have some like liberties compared to female wives in this society, because at the end of the day, I may be married and considered a wife, but I am still a man. I thought that the world building surrounding that was pretty cool. So I had a very good time with this. And those are the two books that I managed to read during leg 3. I did start Carl's Doomsday Scenario by Matt Dinniman yesterday, but I didn't get too far into it, and I'm planning to read that during leg 4 now. But I will talk to you about all of that in my next vlog. Hello guys. We have escaped the abandoned spaceship by going back in time to Versailles, and now we have found ourselves on a holiday cruise ship with the Doctor. We have entered leg 4 of the amazing Readathon, and that means that there are new prompts and new books to read. So I am going to take a look at the prompts and preliminarily pick out something that I'm going to read for them, and then we're going to start reading. So as you all know, I am also participating in the Tarot Readathon, and I'm trying to match up my books with prompts for that as well. So while I'm picking out books for the amazing Readathon, I'm also going to be pulling some tarot cards to see if I can match up books with them as well. But before I start doing pulls, let's talk about the books that I already have a tarot prompt for that fit the current amazing Readathon prompts. The main prompt for this leg is a book involving a holiday. And for this, I'm going to be reading Go Luck Yourself by Sara Raasch. This is a romance between the Prince of Christmas and the Prince of St. Patrick's Day, as the Prince of Christmas has been sent to investigate him because some Christmas magic has been stolen, and they have reason to believe St. Patrick's Day is behind it, since St. Patrick's Day is currently happening. So the holidays involved in this are Christmas and St. Patrick's Day, but I think I'm counting it more with St. Patrick's Day since the holiday is like actually happening within the plot of the book. And then within the Tarot Readathon, this counts for the Sun card. Read a fun or joyful book. This is a reread for me, and I absolutely love this book. I have a great time reading it. The next prompt is a book with a non-human prominent character, and for this I'm going to be reading a book that I started in my last vlog, and that is Carl's Doomsday Scenario by Matt Dinniman. The non-human prominent character is obviously Princess Donut right here on the cover. But then I'd also argue that Mongo, the pet velociraptor, counts as a prominent non-human character, and also a lot of the NPCs. Within the Tarot Readathon, this counts for the Nine of Wands, a book with survival elements. The next amazing readathon prompt is a book with a boat, either in the story or on the cover. And the book that I'm reading for this fits the Nine of Cups card, read a 5-star prediction. I am a sucker for retellings, and Of Jade and Dragons by Amber Chen is a retelling, so I think that I will really enjoy this. And then it's a little bit hard to see, but there is a boat that flies on this cover, but it is like very distinctly a boat, so it counts. The next amazing readathon prompt is a book picked up based on the cover, and the book that I have chosen corresponds with the Emperor tarot card, a book with high stakes. For this, I am going to be reading Assassin x Demon King by Brittany Hart. The main part of this plot is that the assassin is poisoned and is going to potentially die if the Demon King doesn't help find him a solution. So, high stakes. And then the title of this is a little bit on the nose for me, but the cover was so pretty, I really wanted to give this a chance. And the final book that I already have, which fits 2 prompts, is for the amazing readathon prompt Takes Place on Earth, and the tarot prompt 7 of Swords, a book with a morally gray main character or anti-hero, and that is The Assassin's Guide to Babysitting by Natalie C. Parker. All right, now that we've addressed the books, which I already have at the ready, let's pull some tarot cards and see what we can fit in. The Magician. Read a book with a particularly unique concept or premise. All right, let me think. All right, so for this, I am going to be reading The Sunshine Court by Nora Sakavic, and the amazing readathon prompt that this fits is a spin-off from another series. This is a spin-off from the first 3 books in the All for the Games series. It's slightly weird because it's a series made up of 2 trilogies and then a duology. There is the original trilogy, which focuses on Neil Jostin. There is the second trilogy, which we're waiting on the final book for, about John Moreau. And then there is going to be a prequel and a sequel duology to the 2 trilogies focused on Kevin Day. And the way that this is a book with a unique, or yes, a particularly unique concept, is that the entire basis of this series is that the Japanese mafia has a very strong hold in the US, and in order to help them maintain that hold, they created a fake, highly violent sport and ran a cult surrounding that sport for like 2 decades. And then this one teenager came along and said, no, fuck you, and completely dismantled that system, and all of the main characters were somehow involved with the mafia and or affected by this fake sport cult. So a highly unique concept, I would say. The Sunshine Court is the first book in the second trilogy and is like separate from that original trilogy. It's not a continuation of Neil Jostin's story. It is the beginning of Jean Moreau's story. And it came out like 10 years after the first trilogy finished. So it's definitely a spin-off and not just like a continuation.
All right, the next draw is the sun, which is Go Luck Yourself. The Wheel of Fortune. Lucky you, pick a mood read. All right, this is perfect because one of the amazing readathon prompts is a book with a confusing synopsis, and I can think of absolutely nothing that fits that because I read my one weird fiction book during the first week, or the first leg, and that was Shark Heart by Emily Habbock. So what I'm going to do with this prompt is I'm going to be using a power-up card that lets me just like ignore the prompt but still technically fulfill it. And so I can put the Wheel of Fortune pick into that if I get to it. Next draw, the King of Wands. Read a book featuring fame, power, or influence. The Sunshine Court also would have fit with this. Okay. I will get back to you in a minute.
All right, so for this, I am going to be reading The Raven Boys by Maggie Staifvater. I probably butchered that. This has a cast of characters who attend an all-boys school, and they are rich. So there is the King of Wands part of the prompt. And then for the amazing readathon, this also has endearing side characters from my understanding. There's a whole ensemble of different characters who you will come to root for and care about.
All right, and this is going to be my last poll of the video, and that is the Three of Swords. Read a book you think will be emotionally devastating.
All right, for this prompt, I am going to be picking up Our Perfect Storm by Carly Fortune. This is a romance about two best friends who seemingly had a falling out a while ago, except when one of them is left at the altar, they decide to take a road trip and reconcile and end up finally confessing their love to each other. That is my understanding of the book. And in the amazing readathon, this fits the prompt of a host's 5 stars, and Books with Heather has given this a 5-star rating. Now that we have selected my books for this leg, I am going to start reading Go Luck Yourself for the main prompt. It is now the end of the first day of this leg, and I have finished my reread of Go Luck Yourself by Sara Raasch. This book was just as fun a second time reading it. Sorry, I have my fan blowing. And I had a really great time. Chris and Lachlan are my emotionally tormented babies. And I love them, and I'm super excited about the third book in this series that Sara announced a little while ago. I think it's coming out next spring, and I'm really looking forward to the conclusion to our bestie trio's stories. But yes, so I have finished reading for the main prompt of this leg, the book featuring a holiday, and so I have moved on to my sightseeing. And as I was telling you all in the last video, I had already started Carl's Doomsday Scenario by Matt Dinniman for one of those sightseeing prompts, but I didn't get very far. I only got about 10% in. And so I'm moving it over to a sightseeing prompt for this leg, and that is the first prompt to the left of the starting tile. So I'm just going to start by moving to that space, and then I will do dice rolls to select my future sightseeing books. It is now Thursday night, and I have just finished reading Carl's Doomsday Scenario by Matt Dinniman. I had a lot of fun with this book. I think I like Dungeon Crawler Carl more just because in this one, a little bit, I felt like the fights were dragging just a tad. But it was still very fun overall, and I really enjoyed the continued exploration of the one of the main themes of the series, which is reality television and how that affects people and their mentalities. I think Carl is a really strong character, and you can tell that he has a really strong sense of justice, but at the same time, he does prioritize his and Donut's survival. And so I think that that's a really cool piece of inner conflict with him and his character. I don't so at the end of the book there are segments called the backstage pineapple cabaret. I don't know if I like them or not. I just something about it bores me a little bit, and I think it might just be because we don't spend a lot of time in these characters' heads and we don't get a real introduction and get attached to them. So it's like I'm reading them, but I don't know. I think that that is an unpopular opinion. I think most people who read this series do enjoy them. I don't think at this point that they are quite doing it for me, but I will continue to read them as I continue the series. But I will not be continuing the series at this very moment because I have other sightseeing prompts that I need to be due. Earlier today, I rolled for what my next sightseeing prompt will be. I will put that roll up right now. And so moving along the game board 6 spaces puts me on the sightseeing prompt of a spin-off book from another series. And for that prompt, I am reading The Sunshine Court by Nora Sakavic, which I will begin reading tomorrow because I need to go to bed. I have finished reading The Sunshine Court by Nora Sakavic, and this was very fun. I feel like it's very much in the same vein as the Foxhole Court, the first book of Neil's trilogy was, it's a little bit of just kind of like a setup for what the other 2 books in the trilogy are really going to be tackling. It's Jean kind of getting settled at, settled with the Trojans, and kind of thinking, okay, maybe this place is safe, so that he can kind of settle and have his like big emotional journey throughout the rest of the two books. And I feel like the Foxhole Court did similar with Neil. So I am looking forward to reading the rest of Jean's trilogy. We are still waiting on The Broken Cage, but the Golden Raven when I get a chance. But in terms of just the Sunshine Court, I liked Jean's character a lot. Jeremy was interesting. I feel like we don't really know a lot about him at this point in time. It kind of felt like he was skirting around his issues and things and just like focusing on Jean and his other teammates. And I guess that does tell you something in and of itself about Jeremy. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just excited for more from this trilogy. But that was the last book that I read for leg 4 of the amazing Readathon, and it has come to a close. And I have yet to see the announcement for leg 5, so we will see when that comes out and how that ends up going. But in the meantime, I have also yet to finish editing my leg 3 video, so I think probably what I'm gonna end up doing is just combining leg 3 and 4 into one video, and I'll probably also do that for 5, 6, and maybe 7, depending on the spacing of them, because this week I am going on a trip to Rome. So leg 5 I think will mostly happen pre my trip. Leg 6 I think will start like the day of. And then 7 I expect will be sometime during my trip. So I honestly don't expect to be getting too much reading done for legs 6 and 7. Because I'm going to be busy experiencing the sights and having fun with my family. But that is for the next video for you and me to see what happens. I will catch you guys later.